Well, breaking news out of the football. Well, by the time you see this, probably not that breaking. But as we're recording this, it literally within the last half hour has come out. The Ballon d'Or has been decided, and we have our 2025 Ballon d'Or winner, Ousmane Dembele. You know what I'm saying? If you know, you know. 2018 World Cup French song. That was a banger. Who would have thought in 2018, after that World Cup, that we'd be seeing Ousmane Dembele lift the Ballon d'Or before Kylian Mbappe? I'm starting the agendas now. I hate to say, I'm starting the agendas right now. But we can get into that. Any first impressions on the Ballon d'Or, whether or not, we can go down the top 10. There's a lot of routes we can take. Go down the top 10. Who you guys thought should have won it? Who you think is more deserving? Any ranking issues you have with the top 10 rankings, or 1 to 30? A lot of different angles. But any first thoughts?
I think initially, I remember having these discussions before. This adds up, man. Like, I think Lamine Yamal, second place easy, and very well I could have seen first place, but I think Dembele and PSG winning the Champions League, I think that was the final push. If they didn't have that, I think Yamal easily would have won that. But, you know, Dembele and the team were able to do it, so I think it's well deserved. Mo Salah number 4. Maybe I'm just a hater, but I question that decision.
Too high or too low?
Too high.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe I'm just forgetting parts of last season. Like maybe I don't know. But I see other names on here that, like, I think Rafinha was a better player. I think Cole Palmer, it should be neck and neck with Salah. He shouldn't be like a few places down. I don't know. Maybe this is some delusion kicking in.
That's an interesting take. I'll save my thoughts for a second. Any initial thoughts on any of these angles?
Yeah, I mean, I know when we had this conversation way back, I think my pick was Vinicius Jr. And don't fully recall how you guys felt about that, but just the way he contributed to winning, just the way he was involved with winning all around, I would have expected him to have won it, but the fact that he didn't is interesting. I think, PSG fans have an opportunity to celebrate. I know Dembele has been played with different, I know you guys mentioned the narrative, I don't know if you guys are referring to like the injuries that he's dealt with or what exactly overcoming, but like, I don't know, it's not what I had in mind, but it was definitely, I remember one of the names that y'all threw in the mix, so it wasn't like I was completely thrown off guard, and he did have a great season, but I think my pick would have been Vinicius Jr. So I guess what y'all think of that.
On crack.
Nothing else?
I ain't got nothing else. And Dre disappeared off screen.
I think I maybe see where the confusion is coming from, because we did discuss Vinicius for last year's Ballon d'Or and whether or not he deserved it over Rodri, and that was a massive debate. I still think Rodri deserved that. Obviously, it's hard to say what happened after, because Rodri ended up being Alexa, you're killing me. Rodri ended up being injured for basically all of last year, so he didn't really get to back up his, or maybe put on the Ballon d'Or defense campaign. But then Vinicius, on the other hand, ever since he lost out in the Ballon d'Or, he came out and said, "Oh, I'm just gonna show them. I'm gonna do 2 times, 3 times better." And dude was dog last year. Vinicius, I hate to say it, bro. I know you be getting racist remarks out in Spain. I know it's a little rough out there for you, but I ain't gonna lie, bro. You're not backing it up. You and Mbappe, that duo is not hitting the way it should.
Should I just say too, even at 16, that is generous. That is generous.
very generous. If you look at the top 30, Wilt McTominay got to be out of you, bro. I ain't gonna lie. But
Yeah.
if we're talking about players outside of the top 10 that didn't make it in, personally, I believe Pedri has been absolutely snubbed, like unbelievably. I think if we're talking about players who had a realistic shot to win it, that's a different story. I think last year was an outlier seeing Rodri win it, and it was nice seeing a midfielder win it, but usually this ends up going to an attacker, so it was realistic that he wasn't going to end up actually winning it. But if we're talking about the best midfielder in the world, for me, it's Pedri. I think you could argue Jude. You could argue, I guess, if you're looking at the rankings, Vitinha finished third. So you could argue him as well. But for me, Pedri is the best midfielder in the world. And for Pedri to not crack the top 10 Ballon d'Or list after the season he had last year is absolutely criminal. To me, Pedri's better than Vitinha. Okay, now we can talk about accomplishments, and that's why you see a bunch of PSG players doing well, and that's ultimately why Dembele wins it. That's why Luis Enrique got Manager of the Year, I believe. Donnarumma got Goalkeeper of the Year. PSG's obviously just got Team of the Year in general. But if we're talking about actual like eye test ability, performances, for me, Pedri's the best midfielder in the world. So that's, and then we can talk about the actual Ballon d'Or. Like you said, Alexi, I agree. Lamine Yamal, eye test, like performances that I watched, Lamine Yamal was the best player in the world last year. Now, to be fair, that doesn't always end up working out like the best player wins the Ballon d'Or. Numbers matter, accomplishments matter. It's not always so black and white, or maybe sometimes it's too black and white if you want to look at it that way. But for me, Lamine was that guy. He really was that guy. If we're talking about massive, like important performances, watching. Here's my issue with Rafinha, and this is where it kind of ties into the Lamine Yamal situation. Watching Lamine Yamal single-handedly try to drag that Barcelona team to the Champions League final against Inter, for me, said all it needed to say about Lamine versus Rafinha. After that, I was like, bro, there's no chance in hell Rafinha even sniffs Yamal in the Ballon d'Or ranking. That would be absolutely criminal. Now, if we're talking about Salah, who comes into the equation now, who finished fourth, and I think for most of the year, people would have had it Salah, Rafinha, Dembele, Lamine are like the four real contenders, and I would have Pedri fifth. Salah, first half of the year, was the best player. Dembele, second half of the year, was the best player. Rafinha, to be fair, Rafinha and Salah were going bar for bar for most of the year. Lamine, the numbers aren't quite there yet, which is why I think he ultimately didn't win it, because he's still growing. The fact that he's even second is ridiculous. I think this year he's going to try to put those numbers up. But Salah last year, 28 goals, 18 assists in the league, damn near broke both scoring records. So, he didn't end up both scoring and assist record. He didn't end up getting there in the end. But apparently, I don't know the exact number, but he accounted for over 70% of like Liverpool's goals last year, which for me, which is crazy. We're talking about goals and assists, like goal involvement, goals and assists. Like he was like either a goal scored it or assisted 70% of the goals, which is an incredible stat. And if we're looking at him versus Rafinha, the reason why I'd have Salah above him is because Rafinha had a guy who's even higher up on the ranking than him on his team. Salah was putting Liverpool on his back most of the year. And then you see the few games where Salah couldn't do it, they got knocked out of the Champions League to PSG. Literally, it's like if Salah's not taking
early too, right?
Like round of 16, I believe.
I thought it was earlier. Like I thought Liverpool was not.
They made at least because who did PSG face? A lot of English teams. I remember they faced City. No, Madrid took out City. And PSG faced, I think, Liverpool, then Villa, then Arsenal. Then I think it was round because Arsenal was semis.
Yeah.
Villa was quarters. I think Liverpool was round 16, if I remember correctly. But basically, it was like if Salah can't take you there, no one else on Liverpool is stepping up, and that's why you see Darwin Núñez out of there, Luis Diaz out of there. Gakpo's still there, but hey man, now they got two ballers up front. Man, you're gonna have to fight for your spot. So that's why, just for me personally, I can see your argument, and I know you also have your issues with Liverpool. Yeah, so I can understand that. But for me, I can understand Salah being ahead of Rafinha, even if it's only one place. But really, I'm looking at the list again. First of all, Mbappe, that's pure numbers spam. That dude, if you're looking at eye test, he did not deserve 7.
Yeah.
Cole Palmer, people say he had a cold, no pun intended, back half of the year. But if you want to look at Dembele had a terrible first half of the year. So really, you can make that argument. He wasn't actually the best player for the entire year, but whatever. He did it when it mattered most. Gianluigi Donnarumma, I've heard from League One watchers he was terrible in the league, and that's why they got rid of him and got another keeper. But he was big in the Champions League, which does matter.
And he has the experience. He has, other than last season, I guess, domestically, he has good experience in Italy.
That's true. And for me, the player I actually could see going higher, obviously, as a Pedri should be in top 10. That's non-negotiable for me. If anything, I would drop Donnarumma out because Nuno Mendes has to be in there. And for me, Hakimi, sneakily, could be a top 5. Right? I know he's a fullback, and it's hard to argue fullbacks. I understand. But if I'm talking about like important performances on that same team where everyone's getting pulled up because they won everything. We're talking about who was actually the best player on that PSG team. People are going to say Dembele. I understand he's an attacker, whatever. Vitinha, he was arguably the best midfielder on that team. I think John Neves was also incredible. And Fabio Ruiz, whatever. But Hakimi, he put on one of the best fullback years I've ever seen, personally. Like, that dude was all over the pitch. He was showing up as a striker in some of these games. His engine is crazy, his speed, his crossing, his finishing. Even he had a handful of goals last year. His defending, people would have said he used to be a wing back. Now he's a proper fullback, bro. It's hard to beat Hakimi. He's defending very well. I don't know. Hakimi, I know I'm making an outside shout because he's never going to actually win the Ballon d'Or as a fullback and stuff, but I think he's one of them who could have also cracked the top 5. But
I agree with that 100%. Yeah. I think, honestly, Vitinha, not their places swapped, but I think Hakimi should have moved up in that 5.
Yeah, especially because they're already, you can see the PSG buff on the list. The fact that PSG will have 5 of the top 10, I believe. So there's definitely a PSG buff. And I think it's deserved. When you win the Champions League, you're going to get that. I ain't going to lie, man. World champs did take them out in the Club World Cup, so I ain't gonna lie. Cole Palmer gotta be a little bit higher, bro.
Yeah, no, your world champs just got beat by Man U, so
we'll get to that in a second, because hey, Enzo Maresca, your time is coming. But anyway, we'll get to that in just a few minutes here. But honestly, I was impressed to even see Cole Palmer in the top 10. I think it's deserved. I think the narrative around him in the back half of the season, people were acting like he was worse than he was because he wasn't scoring all the goals from open play or any goals from open play. But eye test, you actually watched him in the games. His performance was still at a high level, and I think this reflects that. And the fact that he ended up being the best player in the Club World Cup final and scoring decisive goals or whatever. Like, he's a big game player. He always has been. His record in finals is crazy. So the fact that Chelsea has a player in the top 10 Ballon d'Or conversation is interesting. It's interesting. It's even more interesting because what I'm going to say later about the game, about the game over the weekend. You know, we got to do a little more to surround him with talent. But any last thoughts about even though players that finished 11 to 30, any one of them you think should have cracked the top 10 as the Pedri?
You know, maybe this is just my bias still from the Euros, but I thought, I'm going to butcher the name, Kvaratskhelia. He's been a class player since joining PSG, and top 10, if he were there, I would not have been surprised. McAllister at 22, I saw that, was a little confused. Martinez at 20, Lautaro Martinez, I honestly would have expected higher given what Inter were doing before their massive fumble. But I would say, generally speaking, you know, this list is, you know, less controversial than probably other years.
seeing Victor Gyökeres 15. Interesting.
I'm not surprised by that.
The numbers.
The numbers. You got all these PSG players in the top 10 in a farmers league where the performances are really in the Champions League.
That's true.
Like, it's only right that when you got Gyökeres popping off in what people also call a farmers league, he's got to be top 20 at least.
He did win I saw he won the award for like top striker in Europe at the Ballon. So that's fair enough. I can see that. Will he back that up this year? Top 15 finish. We'll see. Desiree Doué 14, impressive. Honestly, Harry Kane maybe a little bit of a snub. I know Bayern didn't end up going that. Like what did they reach? Like the quarterfinals, I believe. And
I don't think so. Did they get that far?
They lost to Inter, I remember. But I remember who did Interface. Obviously, PSG, Barca was semi. I think Bayern was quarter. Unless there was another team, maybe.
You got better memory than me.
I don't really. Honestly, my memory's terrible. Everything I've said so far could be capped. Like, honestly, my memory is not good. Interface, I think it was Bayern. They faced Bayern at some point. I don't remember if it was quarter or around the 16. But either way, it's not as far as you would expect Bayern to make it. So maybe that's what's holding Harry Kane back. But he won his first trophy out in Germany, and his numbers are just crazy as well. I guess that's why he's ahead of Gyökeres. But I agree with you. Kvaratskhelia, or Kvardona, as we like to call him. Him joining PSG, honestly, we could talk about Dembele's form in the back half of the season, but a big part of their fortunes changing is Kvardona joining them in January. Like, that just put them over the top, where it was like, okay, now you have Barcola coming off the bench, and you have Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Doué, and Barcola is a super sub. It was ridiculous. It was honestly just ridiculous. But yeah, overall, João Neves, 19. I think next year, I ain't gonna lie, this guy, he's growing crazy. Like, every time I see him, and admittedly, I don't watch him as much as I could because I'm not watching League One week in, week out. But every time I have seen him, he just looks like, I thought he was more of a defensive midfielder. He's really just box to box everywhere. He's been scoring goals recently. I wouldn't be surprised if he cracks like a top 15 next year. It depends on, obviously, if PSG goes far. But I'm mainly just watching. Jude, 23. Interesting. Declan Rice, 27. Haaland, 26.
Declan Rice, that's kind of brutal given the performance he put in the Champions League.
Back-to-back man of matches against Real Madrid to take them to the semis. Yeah, I agree. That was like a generational performance. I can't lie. Maybe because Arsenal didn't end up winning anything at all.
But it does give me a smile that Scott McTominay is that much higher.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If Scott McTominay was still on Man U and that happened, Twitter would be crazy, I feel like.
That's true. Wow. Yeah. He's really turned his career around. I mean, I guess you could say that about like 90% of the players.
Yeah, he didn't turn it around because he was never bad.
But his last year at United was where like he started popping up, scoring a ton of goals, being like that box crashing midfielder. But I feel like before that, he wasn't he was bad. Yeah, bad is harsh, but he wasn't really that prominent.
He was just a solid player.
Yeah,
he was like in my eyes, he was like a Lindelof, a solid, reliable player.
Okay,
not that crazy.
I don't disagree with you, but if you compare him to Lindelof, who ended up leaving on a free, then I think McTominay can class that as him turning his career around. But I don't think he's won it.
Lindelof is also older.
That is true. Yeah. Lindelof is he was there for something. That's fair. But either way, I think he definitely did take his career to another level.
Yes,
for sure.
Definitely an elevation, and I want to reiterate too that, I'm not putting one league over another, especially Serie A. I think it's a good league. I think people hate on it a little too much, and some people are just better suited for it, and the tempo there. So,
that's fair.
Glad for Goat McTominay.
And we're gonna have to do a little Serie A. We talked about it last year, but that league is really exciting. I know they had some fun games recently, like Inter, Juventus was crazy. Even Juventus in the Champions League was crazy. And Serie A, if we look historically, they might have the best amount of talent that's gone through that league. Even compared to the Prem, we could do like a combined 11. Maybe we should do that in the future, like combined Serie A, Prem 11. Serie A got some hitters out there, bro. That maybe you can't say in the late 2020s or whatever, but historically. thoughts on the Ballon d'Or 2025? Nope. Sounds good. Congratulations again to Ousmane Dembele. Well deserved. Oh, yes. I forgot about the agenda. Yeah, once again, Kylian, you're on the clock. When you came out, everyone was saying he's next up. After the Messi Ronaldo era, Kylian's going to win the Ballon d'Or. I ain't gonna lie, Haaland should have got one already ahead of you. So you're lucky behind him. Lamine, to me, should have got this one. But even if he didn't, Dembele deserved as well. And Lamine is also not even in your age group, so you shouldn't even be going bar for bar with him. That's embarrassing if he wins one ahead of you. But Dembele, who is your brother coming up in the French and all that, and everyone was saying who's going to be better. Everyone said, okay, Mbappe is clear. It's not even close. And Dembele in 2025 winning a Ballon d'Or before you, joining the team that you left and took them all the way after you couldn't do it, and you got bounced by Arsenal in the quarterfinals or whatever it was. I ain't gonna lie, bro. You're on the clock. But to be fair, he started the season well, so we'll see.